Disney has had a lot of iconic villains. Ursula, Gaston, Oogie Boogie. Yes, I'm projecting, he's my favorite, okay? You know the type. Charismatic, charming, sometimes off-putting, and just likable enough to get your attention, but unlikable enough that you cheer for their downfall. Except for Clayton, maybe. He was horrible, but still, that shit was rough. But as Disney has entered the modern era, villains have become more complex. Gone are the fantastic witches who collect souls for power and the evil sack of bugs that wants to rule over the holidays. Instead, we get emotionally abusive moms like Mother Gothel, self-centered princes like Hans who manipulate young women for power, and matriarchs like Alma Madrigal who nearly destroy their families in a misguided attempt to protect them. So imagine the Disney execs' faces when in 2012, one of their most memorable antagonists ended up being a fucking triangle.
Now everything you know has disappeared. It's gonna get weird.
Gravity Falls came out in 2012, and I'm going to assume that if you're watching a Bill Cipher retrospective, you already know what's up. And if you don't, please go watch it for yourself because I'm going to completely spoil everything that happens. Nearly everything I'm talking about today is in the show, but I'm also going to touch on Journal 3, The Book of Bill, and thisisnotawebsite.com.com. With that out of the way, let's get started. If you're involved in fandom in any way, you may have noticed that fans tend to latch on to villain characters. Bill Cipher is no exception. Because, let's face it, when you introduce your character with
Later, suckers!
How can you not expect him to be a fan favorite? But Bill wasn't originally going to be the main villain.
But I wasn't always this way.
Alex Hirsch has said that Bill's original role was more of a neutral trickster that existed primarily to annoy Dipper.
I was trying to think, okay, well, if Dipper is a kid who desperately wants to know the answers of the universe, and there should be a character who knows the answers of the universe and won't tell him just to drive him crazy.
But as Gravity Falls lore expanded, Bill's role began to grow. Gravity Falls' claim to fame, in my opinion, was introducing a new generation to cryptograms and ciphers. A keen ear can pick out a hidden message at the end of the opening credits. That message, played in reverse, reveals the cipher key to an encrypted message in the credits of every episode. A keen eye will notice a flash of an image at the end of the intro. We're technically introduced to Bill Cipher long before he ever says a single word. He's at the end of every intro. He's literally built into the Mystery Shack. The windows are shaped like him. He's even in the Mystery Shack sign. He also shows up in the backgrounds of other episodes, the most obvious being the arcade cabinet and Fight Fighters. Our first direct introduction to William Mischief Cipher is in the second-to-last episode of the first season, Dreamscaperers. And he's not even the main villain here. He's the dragon, Gideon Gleeful's lackey, summoned back to Gravity Falls to infiltrate Stan's mind. In this episode, he's silly, he's sarcastic, he messes with the characters just because he can, and doesn't seem to be taking anything seriously. It may be easy to disregard him here. He's a funky triangle with slightly edgelord humor that exists to annoy other people. Just a silly little guy. But then, we got Sock Opera. Bill returns in episode 4 of season 2, and you can tell right away that something's changed since Dreamscaperers. He's a bit more sinister. He carts around a disembodied head that's always screaming and dismisses it by peeling its flesh away like an apple. He lowers the pitch of his voice to sound more menacing or ominous. He just seems more serious now.
Hey, want to hear my impression of you in about 3 seconds?
Okay, so maybe some things stayed the same. Sock Opera establishes Bill as a villain in his own right, but it also shows his playbook. The first time he meets with Dipper, he tries to charm him, complimenting him and offering him help. When that doesn't work, he pivots to manipulation, weaponizing Dipper's frustration over Mabel's obsession with a guy.
How many times have you sacrificed for her, huh? And when has she ever returned the favor?
Coupling that manipulation with sleep deprivation, Dipper slips up. He takes the deal. And we get to see what kind of power Bill actually has.
So what puppet are you gonna pick, anyway?
Let's see. Eeny, meeny, miny...
You!
What?
Bill just straight up possesses Dipper and immediately throws him down the stairs, impales his arms with forks, and pours soda into his eyes. He has absolutely no qualms about wrecking a 12-year-old's body just because he thinks it's funny. And it gets worse. In Journal 3, Mabel finds a note in Stan's car written by Bill. Bill was planning to kill Dipper's body just for the hell of it. Thankfully, he has one particular weakness. He underestimates how much people care about each other.
I mean, who would sacrifice everything they've worked for just for their dumb sibling?
Dipper would.
Even though Mabel was utterly infatuated with the guy she was trying to impress, when it really came down to it, she willingly threw it all away for Dipper. Bill then proceeds to fuck off for 11 episodes. When he does show up again, though, it gives us a doozy of a relationship dynamic. He comes back to invade Ford's dreams, and he's weirdly affectionate, teasing in a very condescending way.
A deal's a deal, Sixer. You can't stop the bridge between our worlds from coming, but it would be fun to watch you try. Cute even!
Even though he only shows up at the very beginning and at the very end, Bill's influence is felt throughout the entire episode, especially when his past partnership with Ford is revealed. Dipper and Ford's relationship is put in jeopardy due to the paranoia Bill instills in his victims. It all comes to a head in Dipper and Mabel versus the Future, when he uses Mabel's fear of losing her brother and growing up to trick her into triggering Weirdmageddon. So, what was Bill's motivation for all this? For manipulating and hurting so many people over so many years? Well, it was to find a new home so he could throw a sick rave at the cost of our dimension, of course. Cool motivation, Bill. He does give us some backstory, though. He's from the second dimension.
Imagine living in the second dimension. Flat minds in a flat world with flat dreams.
And he liberated his dimension before coming for us. And then he turns into a monster and outright says he's going to kill Dipper and Mabel, which is insane for a Disney XD show that preteens and children watched.
I've got some children I need to make into corpses!
God, I love this design, though. Thankfully, the thing about Bill is that he doesn't learn. The mistake he made in Sock Opera was assuming Mabel cared more about herself than her brother. He makes that same mistake with Stan and Ford, which, I'm not going to lie, leads to probably the most satisfying Disney death ever.
Stanley!
そして今キコの魂は
So, taking him at face value, he's a fuckboy that takes whatever he wants, especially at the expense of other people. Likeable enough to be entertaining, unlikable enough that we cheer when he's defeated. Yep, all the hallmarks of the Disney villain blueprint. When the show ended, Disney released a few books to tie into the series, one of which was a complete replica of Journal 3, full of backstory and context for all the main characters, Bill included. And, well, there's really not a good segue into this. It's time to talk about the toxic old man yaoi. Let's get right into this. Ford spends the first half of Journal 3 completely glazing Bill. He refers to Bill as his muse, showing all the knowledge Bill provided and how close they became while working together. Could F truly appreciate the complex fates that brought me and my muse together? Ford also discusses how his relationship with McGucket fell apart. McGucket could tell something was wrong well before he almost fell into the portal. Ford was too stubborn to see it, and Bill was also in his ear convincing him that McGucket couldn't be trusted. This created the rift between them that drove them apart. And of course, it's only when Ford is completely isolated that Bill starts to show his true colors. Ford starts seeing Bill in the eyes of everyone he meets, hearing messages from him during microsleeps as he forces himself to stay awake. But that isn't the full extent of what Bill did to Ford in the days, weeks, and months leading to the portal incident. That's all spelled out for us in the Book of Bill, where Bill offers us some pages Ford tore out of the original journal. In doing so, he also shows us just what he did to make Ford so unstable by the time he thought to call Stanley. Through a series of Polaroids and videos, Bill shows us how he took Ford's body out for a night of assaulting police officers, getting a tattoo that declares himself a flirty gal, and hammering nails into his own hand. All of this before leaving Ford to wake up half naked on his roof in the dead of winter. Oh, and he called Stanley posing as Ford, telling Stanley that he was going to drown himself in the lake and that he never loved him. Thankfully, the call didn't go through. This is probably the darkest Gravity Falls gets. Bill outright tells Ford that he's his property, that he can rewire his brain and erase his memories, make him forget his own name. He then promises to send someone to steal Ford's eyes, which makes his reaction to Stanley showing up make a lot more sense.
Who is it? Have you come to steal my eyes?
Gravity Falls did something not many cartoons were willing to do. It touched on relationship abuse. We can joke about toxic old man Yahweh and triangle fucker Stanford Pines all we like, but even if you look at it platonically, Bill isolated Ford by sabotaging his relationship with McGucket. He tried to convince Ford that he was the only one who would ever understand him. Fordsy, nobody else really gets you, do they? Who else will give you this feeling again? If you died out here in the snow, who would even miss you? And once Ford literally had no one else but his muse, Bill dropped the mask. He stopped being charming and turned into a manipulator who would use force to keep Ford from leaving. Now that's a lot to throw on you, and I want to take this moment to disclaim that anything I say after this point does not absolve Bill. He's horrible, and nothing excuses inflicting the kind of pain that he inflicted on the cast of Gravity Falls. But hidden in these journal entries is a rather interesting exchange. Long before their fallout, Ford saw a commercial for one of Stan's products on TV and decided to vent to Bill about their strained relationship. And it's in this scene that we get something unexpected. Bill takes off his hat and reveals a small speck of dust he keeps inside it, stating that it's the last remains of his dimension. Ford asks how his dimension could have been destroyed and by what. Bill responds distantly, by a monster. When Ford offers to hunt this monster down to help Bill get revenge, Bill laughs joylessly and replies, "Sixer, it would eat you alive." Until this point, Bill's backstory had been abstract. It was only during a Reddit AMA in 2015 that we started to learn where he came from, when two important questions were answered by the Triangle himself. The first was, "Do you know what spawned your existence?" To which he replied, "Edwin Abbott has a decent idea." Edwin Abbott was the author of the novel Flatland. Flatland takes place in a two-dimensional world where the inhabitants are geometric shapes and lines. Bill later confirmed this in the finale when he talked about the second dimension, the one he liberated. Heavy air quotes there, by the way. The second question was a simple, "Any family?" To which Bill responded with an equally simple, "Not anymore." In 2016, we got an even bigger hint about Bill's backstory in the book Dipper and Mabel and the Curse of the Time Pirate's Treasure, but we really had to work to find it. Within this book, there was a cryptogram that, when solved, revealed a URL to a secret page, which introduced us to a very important character, who, strangely enough, never actually appeared in the show, the Axolotl. As a prize for finding him, the Axolotl lets the twins ask one question each. Dipper asks what he can tell them about Bill Cipher, to which the Axolotl responds, 60 degrees that come in threes, watches from within birch trees. Saw his own dimension burn, misses home and can't return. Says he's happy, he's a liar, blame the arson for the fire. If he wants to shirk the blame, he'll have to invoke my name. One way to absolve his crime, a different form, a different time. The Axolotl then resets the timeline, meaning that the twins don't remember any of this going forward. While this book is mostly non-canon, this encounter with the Axolotl is canon, as is the information he gave regarding Bill. This poem haunted Bill fans. Misses home and can't return, says he's happy, he's a liar. It raised so many questions, and with the show ending, it seemed like we were never going to get the answers. And then, in 2024, the Book of Bill happened. All credit to him, Bill makes us wait for it. He only talks about his past halfway through the book, and what happened to the second dimension is contained within 2 measly pages, one of which is heavily censored. Essentially, his single eye is a mutation that let him see the third dimension. There are also hidden messages stating that Bill frequently saw an optometrist, who gave him medicine that would make him blind. But as he grew up, his frustration over seeing things no one else could see boiled over, and he decided to try to show the other denizens what they were missing. Bill doesn't entirely remember what happened next. All he remembers is mandibles, so much blood, an episode of Family Matters, and my hands shaking as I realized I could never undo something. He explains that he hears static and blacks out for 30 seconds whenever he tries to talk about that day, but then immediately follows up by saying that everyone loved him for what he did and everyone was fine. But if that was true, then why would he tell Ford his dimension was destroyed by a monster? Well, I'll get to that. There's an important supplement to mention here, though, which is the juggernaut of lore that is thisisnotawebsite.com.com. They had to double the .com because the original website was taken. Oops. Thisisnotawebsite.com.com is an interactive computer archive where you can enter keywords and get little Easter eggs in lore. My favorite of which is...
Ow! 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 God damn it, why? Ah! Oh, my eye! Ow! Ow! What?
Get pinated, idiot! Okay, sorry, back to lore. A couple of things you can type in are Euclid and scalene, which will usually display the message, life form not found. However, there's a 1 in 1,000th chance that the message will change to, why did he do it, and where did we go wrong? Typing in Valles Cineris, which is Latin for Valley of Ashes, plays this video.
Why did you do it? Why did you do it? Why did you do it?
Typing in well-being shows a couple of different slides. Patient file, Bill Cipher. Greatest love, himself. Greatest fear, himself. Art therapy notes. All he draws are red and blue triangles. Patient's odd phobias. 3D glasses, Venetian blinds, TV static. Remember that thing about TV static. The word tantrum shows the first interaction Bill ever had with Time Baby, where Time Baby actually calls Bill out for what he did. I know your crimes, Cipher. Taking a new home will not make up for the one you've lost. What you did to the countless souls of Euclidia. Cipher stopped in his tracks. You choose your words very carefully. Cipher's henchmen murmured amongst each other, confused. They seemed to have heard conflicting stories about Bill's past. You said you liberated the people of your dimension. Liberated them from their bodies. Don't listen to him, he's a baby. What would your parents say if they could see what you've become? What would scale? Interestingly, when Time Baby asks what would scale, Bill cuts him off and escalates the situation into a fight. Typing even his lies are lies has Bill in an interview discussing how he treated Ford. Namely, that he knew Ford wanted to feel special and used that to worm his way into his life. Winning made him feel special, and good God did he want to feel special. He casually states that he cared about Ford the way a person cares about a pet. However, when the other party pivots to ask him about his parents, he abruptly ends the session. The next entry I'm going to talk about is interesting because it's Stan's page. You have to be a bit persistent with it because it'll take you through a bunch of eBay listings at first. Then, Bill will dedicate several pages to insulting Stanley, including going on a very, very long rant about how much he hates Stan. Keep going after that, though, and you get... If you're curious, that Cipher says, I can still see through the eyes of everyone I've ever. The last word is missing. Do you notice how the last pages seem to turn staticky? Bill has a throwaway line in the Book of Bill where he says he hears things in TV static, and no one believes him when he tries to tell other people about it. Sure enough, if you type Faustian backwards into the computer and agree to sell your soul to Bill, turning the monitor's knob will occasionally play a couple of audio clips. The audio is played in reverse over the sound of static. The messages are...
Someone else. A murderer's name. It's Bill.
and...
The sky is on fire. Everything is burning. How could this happen? You killed us all. Remember us.
So this is the one conspiracy that's actually true, I guess. It's probably not a coincidence that the triangles holding baby Bill in the Why Did You Do It video are also made of static. There's no direct answer as to what's going on here, but there's definitely enough to speculate. I should mention here that everything I'm about to say is my own personal theory. Make of it what you will and let me know what you think. Imagine being born with the power to see beyond your dimension. This power alienates you from your peers. They bully you for your differences. Doctors try to change you. Your parents try their best to be supportive. Rockabye Billy, please don't you cry. It's not your fault you have that strange eye. But you're tired of it. You want to show everyone what you're seeing. So you try. And in doing so, destroy everything and everyone you've ever known. With what we've been told here, I think that the Euclidean massacre, the destruction of the second dimension, was an accident. Bill didn't understand what would happen by trying to break the laws of physics, only realizing the gravity of what he'd done once it was over. What do you do when faced with the knowledge that you've killed an entire dimension? While in Bill's case, you may think that only a monster would be capable of such a thing. Bill says he's happy with his life as a multidimensional criminal who liberated his flat-minded dimension. Nearly everyone who knows him believes that. The axolotl tells us that he's a liar. Bill hears voices in static asking, "Why did you do it? You killed us all," and he can't turn them off. He dissociates when trying to remember that day. He repeats, "Everything's fine. It's fine. I'm fine," like a mantra, as if trying to convince us. Or, more likely, trying to convince himself. That conversation with Ford about his home dimension is the closest he ever comes to being self-aware. Notably, Ford mentions that Bill ghosted him for several months after that. Yeah, we're talking about the yaoi again, but there's a point to it, I promise. In the Book of Bill, there's an entire chapter on love. Bill treats it like a joke, but has a section where he mentions his exes before scribbling it out and insisting he doesn't actually have any, despite getting coffee with a howling void a few pages prior and pining after Bloody Mary a few pages later. He's had multiple failed relationships, the most notable being Jessel Brahm the Oracle, the same Oracle that helped Ford when he was wandering the multiverse. And Ford. Bill may have seen a kindred spirit in Ford. They both have mutations and knowledge that alienated them from their peers growing up. They're two sides of the same coin. During their falling out, Bill leaves multiple post-it notes asking Ford to talk, even saying, "Pretty please?" He calls their dynamic a will they won't they destroy the world relationship. Ford outright tells us that, "I once considered him the center of my life, the sun in my galaxy." When Ford cuts Bill off and disappears, Bill goes to a bar and gets so staggeringly drunk that he tries to order 1 sixer please at a taco place and starts crying when refused. He then wrecks the place so thoroughly that he's imprisoned for public indecency afterwards, but not before we get this little monologue.
"Hi, Mom. This is Billy. I want you I'm going to be back from school soon. Don't forget to cut the crust off my sandwiches or where did you all go?"
He mentions afterwards that he blames himself for being sentimental. It sounds to me like Bill had genuine feelings for Ford, but didn't really realize it until it was over, more focused on chasing this one destructive thing that he thought might make him happy over a person that actually did make him happy. Bill ghosted Ford after accidentally showing him a sliver of vulnerability. Again, in the love chapter, Bill says something that's incredibly hyperspecific that I think explains why he did this. No one's going to love you if they know all the terrible secrets you're running from or recognize your blood-spattered face from your wanted posters. Kind of like your mugshot, right, Bill? So, instead of risking being genuine and getting burned for it, he suppressed it, defaulting to the role he'd created for himself. The monster. Monsters aren't vulnerable. Monsters take what they want. When the Pines family prevents Bill from taking the reader over, he throws an epic tantrum, blaming Stan for all his problems. Fair, considering Stan shattered him, but there's another reason he hates Stan in particular. Fans noticed a huge parallel between Stan and Bill during the finale and in the years after the show ended.
Eeny, meeny, miny, you.
Oh, what? Eeny, meeny, miny, you!
They were both liars, utterly selfish con artists who manipulated others to get what they wanted, jaded from years of failed relationships and loneliness. A major fan theory developed that Stan was Bill, reincarnated to atone for his sins. A different form, a different time. But the reality is even worse for Bill. When given guardianship of Dipper and Mabel, Stan changes for the better, and through that change, he gets his happy ending. When you see someone who mirrors all of your flaws change for the better, it can create cognitive dissonance, especially when you refuse to admit you have those flaws at all. Bill tells us Stan is a past 9, overgrown child protected from failure only by a force field of denial and shamelessness. Funny how all those words can also describe Bill, huh? Bill has trapped himself in the narrative that he's a monster, that he's destined to be the villain, because how could he possibly be anything else? Stan challenges that narrative. He's done terrible things too, and spent most of his life being completely selfish, just like Bill. But Stan changed the narrative the moment he sacrificed himself to save his family. Bill can't comprehend that, so he lashes out in anger. He's angry at Stan because, just like Ford, he sees a mirror of himself. But when Stan changes and becomes a hero instead, it shatters the image Bill has created for him, and by association, himself. When Stan defeated him, he invoked the Axolotl, who agreed to give him a second chance if he could complete the Axolotl's trials. Bill asks, "Am I fighting demons, eating ghosts?" The Axolotl responds, "You're getting what you need the most." Which ended up being therapy. Bill is stuck in an interdimensional mental health facility called the Theraprism, which is hilarious but also fitting. Again, Alex has done something not really seen in Disney media before. See, most Disney villains fall to their deaths, or, in Facilier's case, are dragged to hell at worst. At best, they realize their mistakes, or, in Tafiti's case, have their literal hearts returned to them, fixing them. Killing Bill is satisfying, but even more satisfying is seeing him being held accountable, forced to confront the worst parts of himself, and seeing him act accordingly. He hates it in the Theraprism. On his first day, he tried to overthrow the administration and was sentenced to solitary confinement as punishment. It's in this environment of compulsory therapy that Bill starts writing the Book of Bill. Bill wrote it to convince us to free him, let him try again. He admits it. But truthfully, I think Bill wrote it for himself. Ford succinctly summarizes Bill's character for us. Bill isn't a god. He's a needy theater kid in search of a stage. Bill doesn't want power. He wants attention. He needs it. He needs to be the center of someone's world by any means necessary, but he never learned how to ask for attention in a healthy way, so he settles for being the villain. Again, trapped in his own narrative. I've kind of touched on this, but a main factor of Bill's personality is his intense denial. We saw this all the way back in that 2015 Reddit AMA when he said, "Lie until what you want to be true becomes true. Lie until you can't remember what's a lie and what isn't. Lie until you aren't lying anymore." But it's only in the Book of Bill that we see just how deep this denial runs. He insists everyone loved him and everyone was fine after what he did. He insists he's fine after Ford ditches him. It all comes to a head at the end of the book. His plan has been foiled. You know he's stuck in the Theraprism. He ends his communication with us by screaming,
Because no matter what the idiot counselors in this smiling cage say, I don't need anyone, I never have, and I don't miss any of them! I'm fine! I'm fine.
The physical parallel here. With that final denial, he becomes small. According to the patient file from This Is Not a Website, Bill's greatest fear is himself. I fully believe some part of him is aware of what he's doing, what he's done, how incorrigible he is. But the narrative he's created for himself won't let him change. Even with the last of his power, he's lying to us, following the narrative of a cold, uncaring monster. But this lie is a Freudian slip. The Book of Bill is full of these slips. We know he misses his family. The axolotl told us as much. But he also showed it in that drunken phone call asking where everyone went, how upset he was when he lost Ford. When he says such incredibly specific examples like the wanted poster line, or in this example when he talks about morality. Wouldn't it be nice if you could put all that baggage down, quell the shame that follows you everywhere for a lifetime of crimes, make the screams finally stop?
You killed them all.
He's going to be in the Theraprism for a long time. Maybe he already has. Time may work differently there. But I do think the fact that he shows that self-awareness on occasion means that he has a chance. The fact that he even participates in therapy, that bit where he talked about Ford being like a pet, indicates that he's giving in, at least somewhat. But then again, you're just like those preachy, infantilizing automatons at the Theraprism who are so obsessed with getting me to talk about my feelings. It's going to be a long road.
Today is just so wonderful. I feel like chuckling. Ha ha ha. I feel all fuzzy inside like a duckling, full of tarantulas. And now that I'm here tonight, it's gonna get weird. Not enough features. Cats should breathe fire. Bears should sing choir. Very nice. Look at this tower under my power. Look at these people, puny and feeble. Ooh. Look, I'm just a triangle trying to save you from the delusion society gave you. Gravity's a lie, and so is the sky. Trust in the all-seeing, all-knowing eye. Well, look at this money. Who's that, honey? Look throughout history. How could you miss me? Seriously, I'm all over the place. Look at this weather. I can do better. Man, they'll brought rainbows, screaming tornadoes. Look at this loser drinking coffee. Now it's decaf. Look at these people calling me evil. Right back at you. Now you're all statues. Now everything you know has disappeared. It's gonna get weird.